Your parents aren't trying to ruin your life. They're trying to save theirs. And Carl Jung figured out exactly why 100 years ago. Stick around, because this will change how you see every argument you've ever had with them. Also share this with a friend or person that struggles with this problem. You might help them too. Look, I get it. You retired of hearing, you should be a doctor, or that art degree is worthless, or why can't you just settle down already? It feels like they're trying to control every decision you make. But here's the brutal truth Jung discovered. Your parents aren't really talking to you. They're talking to their own unlived life. Jung called it the unlived life, all the paths your parents never took. The dreams they abandoned, the person they could have been but weren't. And guess what? That unlived life doesn't just disappear. It gets projected onto you like a psychological spotlight you never asked for. Your mom, who became an accountant but dreamed of being an artist. She's not just suggesting you go to business school. She's trying to fix her own regret by making sure you read practical. Your dad, who played it safe his whole career. When he pushes you toward stability, he's not just protecting you. He's justifying every risk he never took. This isn't conscious. They don't wake up thinking, how can I live vicariously through my child today? But Jung understood that the psyche doesn't let anything go. Every unlived possibility becomes a complex, an autonomous piece of the mind that operates independently of conscious will. Here's where it gets really twisted. Jung identified that we all carry what he called parental complexes, not just our actual parents, but internalized versions of them that continue operating in our heads long after we move out. But it works both ways. Your parents carry a child complex, their projection of who you should be to complete their psychological puzzle. When your parents say we just want what's best for you, they mean it. But best according to who? Best according to the part of them that needs to believe their choices were right, that their sacrifices were worth it, that their path was the only sensible one. Think about it. If you succeed doing exactly what they did, it validates their entire life. If you succeed doing something completely different, it raises uncomfortable questions about what they could have been. Jung's concept of individuation, becoming your authentic self, is literally threatening to your parents' psyche. Not because they're evil, but because your independence forces them to confront their own lack of it. Every time you make a choice that's truly yours, you're unconsciously showing them that alternative choices were possible. Every time you pursue something they deemed impractical, you're challenging the story they tell themselves about why they gave up their own impractical dreams. This is why they get so emotional about your decisions. It's not really about you. It's about them having to face the road not taken. Your freedom highlights their psychological imprisonment, and that's terrifying. Here's the really insidious part. Your parents learned this same pattern from their parents. Jung called it psychic inheritance. We don't just inherit genes, we inherit psychological patterns. Your grandparents projected their unlived life onto your parents, who internalized it and are now projecting it onto you. The guilt you feel when you disappoint them, that's not just love. It's a psychological program installed by generations of people who couldn't individuate themselves. After everything we've sacrificed for you isn't emotional manipulation, well, not consciously. It's their genuine belief that your individuation somehow negates their sacrifice. But here's what Jung understood that they don't. Their sacrifice was never about you. It was about their inability to take responsibility for their own choices and live with the consequences. Jung identified that the psyche always seeks balance through compensation. If your parents lived a life that was too safe, they might unconsciously push you toward risk. If they were too wild, they might desperately need you to be stable. You're not just their child. You're their psychological completion project. This is why their advice often feels so off. They not responding to who you actually are. They responding to who you need to be to balance their psychological equation. The shy parent needs the confident child. The practical parent needs the creative child. The rebellious parent needs the conformist child. Here's the hard truth. You can't change your parents, but you can understand them. Once you see that their need to control your life is actually their inability to control their own unlived potential, something shifts. You realize that every time you choose authenticity over approval, you're not just individuating yourself, you're potentially freeing them too. By refusing to carry their unlived life, you're forcing them to confront it themselves. Will they thank you for this? Probably not. Most people prefer the comfortable prison of I had no choice to the terrifying freedom of I could choose differently now. Jung's answer wasn't to cut off your parents or rebel against everything they say. It was to develop what he called conscious relationship. Understand the projection, see the unlived life, recognize the complex, then make your choices anyway. Not in reaction to them, that's just another form of being controlled by them, but from your own center, your own authentic self that exists independent of their psychological needs. Your parents' need to plan your life isn't about you. It's about them trying to resolve their own psychological incompleteness through you. Understanding this doesn't make it easier, but it makes it clearer. And clarity, as Jung knew, is the first step toward freedom. The next time they give you unsolicited advice about your life, remember, they're not talking to you. They're talking to the ghost of who they could have been. You don't owe it to that ghost to become it. You only owe it to yourself to become who you actually are. What patterns do you recognize from your own parents? Drop a comment below. And if this helped you understand your family dynamics better, subscribe for more psychology content that cuts through the BS and gets to the truth.